Hello and welcome to the Thread to Mend podcast. My name is Taylor and I'm coming to you from Baltimore, Maryland, and this is a podcast about all things fiber related. I mostly speak on the subjects of knitting and spinning, and in this episode I want to show you a couple projects I'm working on with my own handspun yarn. So in my project bag here, I will just pull out the one on top. And this is a project I have not yet shown you, but I've been working on for several weeks. I have not had a chance to record as frequently as I would like to. I've recorded little snippets here and there, but they've only amounted to about 10 minutes or so, and I don't know, I just felt like I needed to give more than that. So here I am with my Dolman Sleeve sweater. Now, if I were really prepared to show this off to you, I would have maybe put it on larger circulars, because you can see it is not quite to its fullest expanse. But it's a very simple design. This pattern was written by Kate Davies as part of her knitting season thing. I've actually never seen a knitwear designer do anything like this before. It's possible people have, but it was sometime early in the year. Right now it's April. So it might have been even in like October, November, December. I have no idea when. It was definitely before December. Kate Davies put out this kind of pattern club where you signed up. I think it was 50 euros for X number of patterns, and you were to get a knitting journal, which was really appealing to me. I really wanted a notebook to work in. I haven't yet received that. I think that they might be coming in the mail later on in the year. It's truly not known because she has gone on hiatus. I know there was some Kate Davies kind of drama online when she had kind of responded to the whole racism and knitting conversation, and I actually never saw her response. I know that she had made a statement that was controversial and people corrected her, and I think her response to their correction was not what it should have been. So as it is, I think that the knitting season club is on hold, as she is currently going through a lot of health issues right now. I know that in the past she had a stroke, and I hope that that is not repeated, but I certainly hope the best for her on her healing journey. I did think twice about casting on this project, just because I didn't want any person to read into first of all, I don't know what she said. I don't know what her response was to people's criticism. I honestly, I didn't get to read anything myself. It was all taken off the internet before, I even heard about it. So I really wish I could know, so that I knew exactly like what is happening. But I felt like without knowing and having already invested in the patterns already, I'm not hurting anybody by creating this project. And it just so happens that the exact pattern that came out, I will add the name of the pattern here because I forget the name of it. But the pattern that she published is exactly what I wanted to do with this exact yarn. It is a bottom-up Dolman Sleeve sweater, and the construction is such that you increase at the sides from the waist until you get all the way to the cuff. And so it's knit in the round, and you do a steek at the cuff, so you continue knitting in the round until I just got a work call in the middle of that. But you knit in the round, and yeah, that was really distracting. I'm sorry. So you knit in the round and you add a steek for the armhole, and then you keep knitting until you get all the way to, I guess, here, and I haven't read the instructions that far yet, but you would, I I think use steek for the neck hole also, and maybe do some sort of short row shaping, I hope. So it was actually a viewer of my podcast commented, it was Josh Mall, commented that I should do steeks for the armholes if I want a Dolman sleeve, because I wasn't sure how to construct one, and it made sense to me to do that, but I've actually never steeked before, and so to steek like 3 times in one garment kind of intimidated me with especially with handspun. So I'm just really happy to have a pattern with instructions that I can utilize to kind of know that I'm doing it in a way that will pan out in the end. So yeah, I am gonna give you a little close up here. Normally I try to steam block my projects as they are worked, but I did a very short 1-inch twisted rib, and I'm knitting the random stripes that I feel like knitting. So if I want this color next or that color next, or do some kind of pattern of colors, I will do that. Nothing is like repeated, so it seems random, but sometimes I do kind of strategic little things. Like I wanted to see what it would look like to have a stripe bordered by a color on both ends. Here I did stripes of, it's hard to see over the twist, but here I did a stripe of each color in equal number of rows. So just keep changing it as I go. I really do like the look of having many single row stripes, but that's a lot more ends to weave in. So anytime I can do 2 rows or 3 rows or 4 rows or even 5 rows of the same color, I'm just saving so many ends to weave in, which I have been doing as I go. So here's the outside of the beginning of round, and I've been weaving them in as I go because it just would look wonky if I didn't. So I pretty much, and I'm trying not to snip the ends very small because I don't want the ends to come back out to the front of the sweater, so I'm leaving them a little bit long. And you can see that, you know, the last like inch or so, or the last few rows before my knitting, I just kind of stop so that so every couple inches I stop to weave in all my ends, which honestly I enjoy a little bit of a break from just plain stockinette to weave in ends. I know that doesn't sound fun, plain stockinette and weaving in ends, but I feel like just like breaking up what you're doing every so often makes it a lot more enjoyable. So these are yarns that I spun with, so they're all the same fleece. This is the first, I want to say this is the first Cormo fleece I bought. It was at a Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival a couple years ago. And the first year I pretty much spent my time dyeing batch after batch after batch and combing it and spinning it. And it took about a year, I would say, to do all that. And then I just kind of kept collecting single skeins of different colors. And so I had a full sweater and a half quantity, or very large sweater quantity, of yarn in different colors, but really not enough to do any design that I see coming out frequently, or at least ones that I've like set on my queue or favorites to knit. So when I saw this pattern come out, I knew I wanted to do maybe just a random stripe. I did do a swatch or two in color work because that would have been preferred. I really like to do color work, but the contrast amongst these colors, there was very little. I think you can tell like only one of them really has a stark contrast to just some of the others. So yeah, I can't exactly remember what I dyed to get each color. I really didn't write anything down because each batch was an experiment. But the dark brown color, that is black walnut hulls with, I don't know if technically iron oxide is the correct term of what I used, but I basically took a bunch of nuts and bolts and put them in a jar of water, and I think I added vinegar. So I have this like jar of rusty stuff, and whenever I do a dye bath, I just take a spoon, scoop out some rusty stuff, and put it in my pot. And it pretty much turns everything black or blue. And so that is black walnut hulls with that rust. These are black walnut hulls just as they are. The blue is, I believe that was English ivy from the yard, dyed with the rusty stuff. And the yellow, I actually had 2 skeins of yellow and I couldn't tell them apart after I had done both batches, but one was, I want to say one was it looks like hemlock, but it's not. Queen Anne's lace. So I did a bath of Queen Anne's lace, came out yellow, and I also did a lichen bath that came out yellow too. And then more recently I did a dye bath of a new merino fleece. Sorry, my scalp is like itchy today. I just can't stop itching it. I just washed my hair last night and I feel like maybe it's just dry. But yeah, everything I dye comes out yellow. I have yellow fiber I'm spinning right now. It's on my wheel downstairs, and that came out a very like golden yellow, and that was dyed with eucalyptus. And then I more recently dyed forsythia from my garden too, and that of course came out yellowy green. I added the rusty stuff to that because when I saw that this was definitely turning out yellow, I just thought I can't handle that again. And I actually have, it's in this drawer right in front of me. Excuse the noise and wobble. I dyed 2 braids. These are not, this is not wool from a fleece. This is just roving I acquired, and I dyed these, and obviously they're very different. This is, I think, with goldenrod. This I can't remember what I dyed it with, but everything for me is just coming out yellow, and I personally don't like the color yellow. So you know, I would probably use this color in color work. This one I might over dye. I don't feel like I'm in a rush to spin these, but yeah. I don't know if I've ever shown you this acquisition. Sorry for the plastic noise, but in case I didn't show off this braid of fiber, since I'm in my fiber drawer, this is a braid that I bought from Nest Fiber Studio. The colorway is called Greater Good, and it is organic Polworth. And I took it out and unbraided it and rebraided it, so this might not actually be how it came in the mail, but that's how I knew to braid it back up. And it is pretty true to color. I'd say it's maybe has a little less contrast than you see on camera. But when it arrived, I remember thinking, I don't know why I chose this, because it really isn't well, that's like my favorite color ever. So that's probably why I chose it, but I feel like that's a very small corner of this whole braid. I've knit with Polworth once before, or spun Polworth once before, and the finished project I made was so soft that it was a little itchy. The fiber was just so fine that the ends of it kind of like pricked me a little bit. So I don't know what inspired me to buy Polworth again. It's very, very, very soft. And I will get to this. But of all the colors that, every time she posts a new color, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that color. And then maybe, I don't know what it is for me, but usually when I buy things online and then they arrive, it's never what I thought it was or expected it to be. So, oh, I'm seeing another area where there's like this rich caramel amber color. Yeah, I feel like braids, when it looks amazing in a braid and then you spin it, it's not, maybe like it might be that you liked it more in the braid. So I'm hoping that when I spin this, it will be more loved in a skein. Right, so anyway, that was a tangent. This is my Dolman Sleeve sweater that I would say I'm maybe halfway through on. I don't plan for it to be a long one. It'll be a bit cropped, so I would say I'm nearly halfway there if I don't overdo it. Yeah, so that's my easy knitting project right now. Pretty much increasing forever, and then I need to start reading some of the instructions to make sure I don't forget some at the same time step, which I don't know if I spoke to this at length, but I did miss a step at the same time with this project. It's the back. This is the first back piece that I finished of my Nightingale sweater. This is knit with my hand spun from a fleece I bought at Rhinebeck Sheep and Wool of this past year. And I pretty much went straight to Rhinebeck, bought my fleece in the wool barn, went around a wall in the same room of the same building, and then got straight in line for the Pom Pom magazine winter edition. And I got to meet Nora and see the sample, and I just fell in love with this design. This is the cover sweater of the winter 2018 pattern book. It's not a pattern book, it's a magazine, but right, so I finished the back panel. You can see on camera there's quite a bit of striping in the natural color of the fleece. It really, I've said this every episode, it doesn't look so dramatic in person, but no matter what, it'll probably appear dramatic on camera, which is fine. The striping did inspire me to invest in a new tool in my spinning, and that is a hand comb, what do you call it? There's a name for it, but it's basically like you usually have like hand combs and you comb off your comb, and this is one that is the same thing. It's a hand comb like structure, but it's much longer, so you can take fiber from your combs and then put the fiber on this thing I can't remember the name of, and then so you do that a bunch, and so that the fiber is more well blended. So I spun a third skein, and I think I've told you about this already, and it came out very, oh, that's not it. I have it in another bag, so I can't show it to you. I hope I know where it is. So I spun a second skein, and it came out very light. It was not the worsted weight I needed it to be. It was way closer to fingering weight. So I decided I was going to skip the front and go straight to the sleeves, into the sleeves. And then when I began knitting the sleeves, I got the pattern all jumbled up. So I got 5 inches in, because that's about where I was changing to my next needle size. And I was like, whoa, wait a second, this is not correct. So I'm going to restart the sleeve. And in the meantime, I spun a third skein of yarn. And this one I do feel like it is very much more uniform, but there is a little bit of striping still, because I didn't comb the fiber more just to blend it, which would have made it more perfect. Instead, I just decided, instead of combing, so I have one comb fixed to the table, and so I would comb onto my comb and then comb it back onto the one fixed to my table, and then I would draft it. Instead of doing that, I would comb off the fixed and then comb it onto the longer thing I can't remember the name of, and do that again and again and again, so that all of them were kind of blended in, kind of stacked across, versus like combing it back onto the comb and then coming back. I just didn't want to handle my fine wool too much, because that's when you get little noils in your fiber. One or more of the fibers kind of get jumbled up and in the mix, and it's just not fun to spin that way. So here's the start of my back panel. This third skein is the most consistent and the most worsted weight of all of them, so I'm really glad that it's the front of the sweater. I would definitely repeat that order of things, doing the last spin or the best spin yarn as the front, because that's what I will see the most, and I'm guessing other people would see if I'm wearing a jacket. And yeah, this pattern has been a breeze to knit. I never done cables before, so I was a little intimidated, but I do feel like, that's the back, sorry. I do feel like it's hard to mess up, because when you're doing the next row, like it really depends on what you did in the previous row to make sure you're doing it correctly. I feel like it's kind of hard when you're doing a big design like this to mess up one area and not notice. So unlike maybe more vertical cables where you can make a mistake very far down and not be aware. I don't feel like that would have been possible for me here. Oh, one thing I will say is that I ran out of my first skein right around the top here where there were short rows. I guess you can tell exactly where because I have an end to weave in, which I didn't leave very much end to weave in. But when I did the last few rows, I basically held the second skein that I spun thin double so that it would match more better. And it's a little bit dense. It's a little bit too thick, but I feel like better to be too thick right around the neck than not thick enough. So, right, this is gonna be a very cropped sweater. I did modify it with not knitting the ribbing and just kind of doing the setup row and then going straight into the chart. Because I want to be able to wear this with my high waist vintage skirts. And I hope that the sleeves come out poofy enough. I think that there's no way it won't, because I believe that you kind of decrease by half on the stitches in the last row, so it's got to kind of give a little poof. But the sleeves are to be determined. I don't know exactly. I think I'm going to make sure that they're full length all the way to the cuff, because that would just be kind of dramatic. But yes, that is my Nightingale project. I've really only been working on these two things. I haven't been doing a lot of other projects that I can think of. I do have like a knit bra that's kind of just sat on my shelf for a long time that I started knitting on just to wrap it up, but it's not super. I even kind of made a mistake and have to rip out everything I did do, so I'm not going to show you that. But those are my projects. I hope to, I don't know. I mean, the only deadline I'm setting for myself is the Rhinebeck weekend for wearing my handspun from the previous year. So this will be my Rhinebeck sweater, no matter what, I'm sure. And it will be May soon. So I have May, June, July, August, September, and October. I have like 6 months to knit the rest, which I'm sure I'll still be in a time crunch just based on how much I'm able to knit these days and how much time I dedicate to it. I think now that my spinning, I guess I'm playing a little bit of yarn chicken with how much I spun for it already. Of course, I have all the fiber I need to make enough yarn, but I haven't done that. So I'm gonna knit and see where that gets me. And if I need to spin more, I'm gonna try to finish this far in advance of the festival just to give myself time to do all that. This yarn is heavy with lanolin. The skein that I showed you, and I did knit a bunch of it already, but when I was done spinning it on my bobbin, which wasn't even completely full, like I could have added a bit more to my full bobbin, when I pulled it off, it weighed 160 grams. And there are many times that I've spun barely 100 grams on that bobbin, completely full. So it's kind of fun to think of how much weight is just in the delicious kind of grease of the yarn. And I think because I washed this fleece with a gentle shampoo that doesn't have surfactants in it, it means that there's lanolin still in the fiber, but it's like not like chemically, like molecularly, it's not kind of damaged. It's still like lanolin. I have another fleece that I didn't use the same detergent or shampoo on. I think I used like Dawn, and you can tell that it changed the structure of the oils, and then when I couldn't get all the oils out, it's not like soft like a raw fleece is, where you can just like pull it apart and like play with it. It's really stiff and crackly and stuck, and I'm just still mourning the loss of that fleece because I pretty much destroyed it preparing it to be used. So I have like basically at least one, maybe two pillowcases of this fiber that I don't know I'll ever be able to actually work. And it wasn't cheap. Like, I probably spent anywhere between like $60 and $100 on that fleece. So it's disappointing to think that I threw that money away, which over a couple years, like, it's not that big of a loss, but it's definitely one you don't want to make. So I can't say enough how important it is to use nice surfactant-free shampoo on your fleeces if you can. I actually have behind me the one little, actually not the one, there's some fiber that is usable from this fleece, and I have spun a whole skein already, and the first skein I gave away to a person I met through Ravelry. We did a little trade, and then this is a bat I carded on my drum carder, and I added this like pink stellina. I'm not sure, yeah, you can see that. I thought that was fun. It's actually this here. So there's really like two kinds of fibers in this bag. There's the like holographic looking one, and then there's some that just are pink glowing, which I don't know, I feel like I can live without the pink glowing ones. I really like the holographic sparkle. I would guess this is like not even 40 or 50 grams of fiber here, and I'll spin it eventually. I just kind of like keeping it. I have a hard time spinning fine wool from bats or carded. I guess, I don't know, it just sometimes it ends up a little kind of tweedy looking. So I do prefer hand combed fiber. The thing with this fleece is that my staple length is about 3.5 or 4 inches on most of the fiber, and so it's harder to draft it off the combs without kind of hurting my hands a bunch, especially with the situation it's in with the kind of stickiness of it. So drum carding is much easier. I really want to buy a fleece at Maryland, and at the same time I really don't, only because when I buy a fleece, the first thing I do that day and the next is I wash it. I don't stop washing it until it's all washed. And last year I pretty much like froze my shoulder because I was using my hand carders to comb out. So I wasn't using combs, but I was like you comb your hair. I was like combing the tips before washing. And so, I mean, what I was thinking is that if there's someone planning to go to Maryland that would want to split a fleece with me, I would love to buy a whole fleece and then split it up and either mail it to you or share it with you at the festival and split it up. So I don't know, maybe I will bring a trash bag or two in my purse to, on the fly, like share a fleece in case that happens. It would be nice to just take home half the size of a fleece to work with versus an entire like 8 to 10 pounds of fiber that I really don't need 8 to 10 pounds of. I mean, granted, when you're working with a fleece, a fine wool fleece, you're probably only going to get half of it in yarn. So if I bought, say I bought a 6-pound fleece, I'm going to get 3 pounds of yarn out of that. 3 pounds of yarn is like 12 skeins. That's like way more than I need. So if I could get a 6-pound fleece and split it and have 3 and then get 1.5 pounds, that's like 6 skeins, that would be so much more preferred right now for me. So if you're interested in splitting a fleece with me at Maryland, let me know. I would be willing to even buy 2 and split each of them if different people want different things. I always go for fine wool, and I'm thinking about getting a Shetland fleece, but I don't know why I'm on the fence. I guess I just don't want to deal with like Kemp and all of that. Message me in the comments below if you want to go in on a fleece and we can try to coordinate that. I guess there's really no guarantees until I hear from you and we coordinate together. And then also, like, do you want to pick it out together? Do you want me to pick it out? Like, we can work out the details. And yeah, I think that's all I have to share. I probably need to leave for work right now. I didn't really look at the time. So yes, that's the end of this episode. I hope you all have a great day. And if you are going to Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, let me know. I would love to meet up with you. I hear there's some kind of podcaster meetup, which generally I get nervous around big crowds and things, but you know, just because like if I'm standing there, I don't know like who wants to meet me, so I don't know why I'm there. But if you see me, say hi. Tap me on the shoulder, do what you need, get my attention. I would love to meet you. I hope you have a wonderful day and take care.